Okay, Perry Personnel. And then you wanted to discuss...
Before.
Sure.
If I may.
Sure.
I'm concerned that we may have fallen behind in following our own procedure for appointments to borough committees and advisory boards. And the genesis of my concern goes back to last Wednesday's work session, wherein for the first time I saw the people who are interested in the various positions. I also learned at the same time that the chairman of our planning commission, Warren Waldorf, had also seen those candidates, and I think Mr. Warren also reported that Warren had shared with him his I don't want to say preferences, but who he liked. And Warren went out of his way to point out to council that it was just his observations that council still had to do their job. So that caused me to go back and take a look at history, and this goes back to, Julia, when you were part of the, when you were the liaison to the Personnel Committee. It started with a procedure in February of 2008 that was finally streamlined and approved in May of 2008. But nowhere in that procedure did it call for any information to be shared with any committees without it going to council first. And the most important thing that I think we're short on is we're supposed to review this policy every year. And I don't believe we've reviewed it since it was implemented in 2008. And I'm just concerned that we're doing ourselves and the borough a disservice by not going ahead and reviewing this policy before we do any reappointments or appointments for committees going forward. And I'd like to recommend that we take the opportunity to meet at our next, we have a backup council meeting to specifically discuss this, because volunteerism is very, very important. And the other question I have is for council is, in that this is a personnel matter, people who are applying to various committees and advisory boards, should these things be discussed in executive session? I truly don't know. But I think we have a responsibility to follow the policy that was adopted in May of 2008, and we haven't done it before we move forward on the reappointments and new appointments this year. Thank you.
So, Bob, is there a particular part of the policy as written that you would like to review?
I'd like to review the whole thing, because we have not, the last sentence on the approved procedure is this policy will be subject to annual review by Borough Council. We haven't done it. Okay?
But is there a particular part of that that causes you concern, a specific thing? And when you look at it, you say, gee, I wish we could review this.
I think we have a
because I don't like it.
responsibility as a group to discuss it and review it and to see whether it needs to be streamlined.
Well, let me weigh in here, I guess, in a discussion. I appreciate the concern expressed about process. We can always talk about process. I think the more immediate concern and perhaps the responsibility is to also fill the vacancies so that these bodies can be as close to full strength as possible going forward in the year. So to the extent that we should revisit that, and I take your point, Bob, we can do that, but we also have a number of reappointments this evening which are specified and a separate set of appointments, again, to have these groups be able to move on and perform their work for the borough. So I would hate to see the work of these various advisory groups held up while we revisit on an annual basis or otherwise the process itself, unless there's something specific which kicks out as a reason to put a halt to everything. These are on the agenda this evening for action, and my suggestion is we proceed to take action, but certainly we can discuss the process going forward.
Mike, we spent from February of 2008 to May of 2008, we thought it important enough that we developed this procedure. I'm only asking for a 1-week delay because I believe the third Thursday meeting would be next Thursday, so that we all have the opportunity to discuss this amongst ourselves. We have yet to discuss the candidates amongst ourselves. And to be very honest with you, when I heard the names mentioned at last Wednesday's meeting, when I was looking at the Planning Commission candidates, I went right to those two people, okay? And I want to make sure we're giving everyone a fair shake. And I think we owe it to ourselves to do that. I don't agree with you.
Well, I'm personally satisfied that we follow the procedure for appointments. Looking at the procedure, the vacancies have in fact been posted on the borough website and announced monthly in the borough council meetings. We have maintained a list of residents who volunteered in the past to serve on boards. Residents interested in serving on committees and boards contacted Borough Council in writing indicating their willingness to serve, and the few people that I reached out to who didn't respond in writing aren't among the applications we're considering. Applicants, in many cases, responded in writing to a series of questions. The applications were forwarded to Borough Council for action, discussed to some degree at the planning session, and then we've gotten a few other, actually no applications, but some reappointment forms in the week between the work session and tonight. With respect to reappointments, I contacted contacted the chairs initially of the committees and boards, inquiring as to whether they believed the committee and board members whose terms were about to expire would be interested in continuing on, and asked that the chairs in turn contact the committees and board members, and in some cases contacted them myself. The vacancies were posted on the website and announced at Borough Council meeting last month. We did request a short written summary reflecting his or her activities on the committee or board from all those board or committee members seeking reappointment, and we have not necessarily gotten those in each case. With respect to, but I've either spoken to, communicated directly by email with, or received a summary from each person. And I'm personally satisfied with the renominations of some of the people who I only spoke to personally. And finally, if someone's not reappointed, then a new vacancy will be advertised and filled as noted above under new appointments. So there are several positions for which we're not prepared to make motions for appointment or reappointment tonight, but there are a number that are, and I believe we should fill those positions.
I agree. It just sounds like you outlined that we followed our policy as set forth in 2008. So.
Okay, I will also remind you, Bob, that when there was a rec board appointment, I believe it was last year or the year before, the rec board members contacted council to let them know who their preferences were too. So it is not unusual for this communication to occur. And you've all received the forms that have been completed and sent back. And if you'd like to add discussion of looking at the process again, be happy to put it on the next work session agenda. So going forward, we will take that up. So, Marcia, if you'd like to put that on for the February work session, be happy to discuss the policy again, see if it needs to be tweaked, and if there are specific areas that you have concern about, Bob, if you would make recommendations regarding those. Okay, well, shall we proceed with the reappointments then?
I'd like to move that we reappoint Dwayne Buck to the Civil Service Commission for a 6-year term through December 31st, 2016.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'd also move that Council reappoint Henry De Silva to the Environmental Advisory Council for a 3-year term through December 31st, 2013.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Are you voting?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd also move that Council reappoint...
Motion carries. Okay.
Oh,
next.
okay. I also move that Council reappoint Michael Hutchinson to the Historic Architectural Review Board for a 3-year term through December 31st, 2013.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move that Council reappoint Nancy Frudenthal to the Joint Historic Commission for a 4-year term through December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Further move that Council reappoint Warren Waldorf to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term through December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question for our solicitor. I know Warren has worked very, very hard over the past 5 years on the Planning Commission. I want to make sure that there's no issues associated with the fact that Julia is president and Warren is acting chairman of the Planning Commission, so there's no perceived conflict or impropriety with respect to the importance of what Julia does as president of council and what Warren does as chairman of the Planning Commission, especially as it relates to the policies that get promulgated by council. Gerard, you were concerned last year when John Burke's wife wanted to fill in for Marcia in terms of whether it was proper for us to do that. And I'm just concerned that we've got two individuals who are both holding key positions where things could be misinterpreted. That's a question for council.
Are you suggesting I should abstain from the vote? Which is
No, I'm asking
certainly-
council whether or not it's appropriate for Warren to serve on the planning commission, especially as chairman, and you as president of council with respect to the ongoing activities of the planning commission and council.
The answer I would give is that I'm not aware of any restriction that would prohibit two members of the same household from holding positions in that nature. I can perceive, and I thought that's where your question was going, also about a possible conflict in council president voting on this particular appointment due to her relationship, and if she chooses to abstain, then that might resolve that issue. But I don't believe that there is any legal impediment to them serving in their positions or continue to serve.
Thank you.
And Bob, my chief concern was that the proposal was that our tax collector was going to fill in for Marcia, who, already the only paid elected official of Newtown Borough, and that carried on to others that John's wife as well. So, as being a concern, but it was my concern was chiefly with the tax collector filling in.
And I thought it was more with John's wife. Thank you.
No, I will abstain from this vote being related to the candidate.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'll call the question. It's been moved and seconded.
sure.
All those voting in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd also move that council reappoint Paul Snyder to the Planning Commission for a four-year term through December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And I'd move that council reappoint Mary Jane Leonard to the Vacancy Board for a one-year term through December 31st, 2011.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'd further move that council reappoint Kimberly O'Neill to the Zoning Hearing Board for a three-year term through December 31st, 2013.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
New appointments, just a couple comments on specific boards. On the Building Code Board of Appeals, there's one member whose term is expiring that I have not yet communicated with, but there's actually a vacancy. So we would be filling here the open appointment, and then Marcia and I will continue to try to get in touch with Mr. Johnson to inquire as to his desire to continue and serve another term on the Building Code Board of Appeals. That said, it's not to replace Mr. Johnson, it's for another position that is unfilled. I move that council appoint Kevin DiPolito to the Building Code Board of Appeals for a five-year term through December 31st, 2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next on the list here are one full term and one partial term for the Historical Architectural Review Board. I don't have a motion tonight for either of those positions. We've received one application, but we've sent back recently got an application. We've sent back the questions and need some more follow-up on that from that
Okay,
applicant.
so we'll put the HARB appointments off to our February meeting then.
And then with respect to the Planning Commission, that is the one commission or committee or board for which we received multiple applications, and all have been distributed. And first I'd move, going a little out of order here, I'd move to appoint Jane Spector to the Planning Commission to fill the unexpired term for a period of 1 year through December 31st, 2011.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Have we had discussion? How did we arrive at Jane's name?
Well, we put the name out for consideration. So the motion was made. We can discuss her nomination. If the motion fails, then we move on to another person.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And with respect to the full term, I'd move to appoint David Young to the Planning Commission for a 4-year term through December 31st, 2014.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.